The hottest places in hell are for those who, in times of great moral crisis, maintain their neutrality. There is no greater sorrow than to recall a happy time when miserable. There is no greater sorrow than to recall a happy time when miserable. The path to paradise begins in hell. In that book which is my memory, on the first page of the chapter that is the day when I first met you, appear the words, "Here begins a new life." Remember tonight, for it is the beginning of always. In the middle of the journey of our life I found myself within a dark woods where the straight way was lost. The more a thing is perfect, the more it feels pleasure and pain. The wisest are the most annoyed at the loss of time. There is no greater sorrow than to recall our times of joy in wretchedness. Love insists the loved loves back. O human race, born to fly upward, wherefore at a little wind dost thou so fall? Consider your origin. You were not formed to live like brutes but to follow virtue and knowledge. They yearn for what they fear for. Into the eternal darkness, into fire and into ice. There is no greater sorrow than to recall in misery the time when we were happy. The man who lies asleep will never wake in fame, and his desire and all his life drift past him like a dream, and the traces of his memory fade from time like smoke in air, or ripples on a stream. Love, that moves the sun and the other stars. Through me you go into a city of weeping, through me you go into eternal pain, through me you go amongst the lost people. The day that man allows true love to appear, those things which are well made will fall into confusion and will overturn everything we believe to be right and true. Midway upon the journey of our life, I found myself within a forest dark, for the straightforward pathway had been lost. From there we came outside and saw the stars. Lost are we, and are only so far punished, that without hope we live on in desire. Heaven wheels above you, displaying to you her eternal glories, and still your eyes are on the ground. But the stars that marked our starting fall away. We must go deeper into greater pain, for it is not permitted that we stay. I did not die, and yet I lost life's breath. I felt for the tormented whirlwinds, damned for their carnal sins, committed when they let their passions rule their reason. He woke her then, and trembling and obedient, she ate that burning heart out of his hand. Weeping, I saw him then depart from me. Could he daily feel a stab of hunger for her? Find nourishment in the very sight of her? I think so. But would she see through the bars of his plight, and ache for him? As little flowers, which the chill of night has bent and huddled, when the white sun strikes, grow straight and open fully on their stems, so did I, too, with my exhausted force. In the middle of the journey of our life I came to myself within a dark wood where the straight way was lost. Ah, how hard a thing it is to tell what a wild, and rough, and stubborn wood this was, which in my thought renews the fear. Thus you may understand that love alone is the true seed of every merit in you, and of all acts for which you must atone. At grief so deep the tongue must wag in vain, the language of our sense and memory lacks the vocabulary of such pain. Nessun maggior dolor. Che ricordarsi del tempo felice. Nella miseria. Segui il tuo corso e ti lascia dar les genti. Follow your road and let the people say. He is, most of all, l'amor che move il soli l'altra stelle. Now you know how much my love for you burns deep in me. When I forget about our emptiness and deal with shadows as with solid things. As one who sees in dreams and wakes to find the emotional impression of his vision still powerful while its parts fade from his mind, just such am I, having lost nearly all the vision itself, while in my heart I feel the sweetness of it yet distill and fall. It was the hour of morning, when the sun mounts with those stars that shone with it when God's own love first set in motion those fair things. There is a gentle thought that often springs to life in me, because it speaks of you. The poets leave hell and again behold the stars. But already my desire and my will were being turned like a wheel, all at one speed, by the love which moves the sun and the other stars. One ought to be afraid of nothing other than things possessed of power to do us harm, but things innocuous need not be feared. To get back up to the shining world from there, my guide and I went into that hidden tunnel. And following its path, we took no care to rest, but climbed, he first, then I so far. Through a round aperture I saw appear some of the beautiful things that heaven bears, where we came forth, and once more saw the stars. Love, which absolves no one beloved from loving, seized me so strongly with his charm that, as you see, it has not left me yet. Love brought us to one death, so that the universe felt love, by which, as some believe, the world has many times been turned to chaos. And at that moment this ancient rock, here and elsewhere, fell broken into pieces. I, answering in the end, began, alas! How many yearning thoughts, what great desire, have lead them through such sorrow to their fate? Those ancients who in poetry presented the golden age, who sang its happy state, perhaps, in their Parnassus, dreamt this place. Here, mankind's root was innocent, and here were every fruit and never-ending spring. These streams the nectar of which poets sing. Love, that exempts no one beloved from loving, seized me with pleasure of this man so strongly, that, as thou sayest, it doth not yet desert me. For pride and avarice and envy are the three fierce sparks that set all hearts ablaze. There is no greater sorrow than thinking back upon a happy time in misery. It is necessity and not pleasure that compels us. Italian, necessita si induce, e non diletto. I found myself within a forest dark, for the straight-forward pathway had been lost. Ah me! How hard a thing is to say, what was this forest savage, rough, and stern, which in the very thought renews the fear. So bitter is it, death is little more. This mountain is so formed that it is always wearisome when one begins the ascent, but becomes easier the higher one climbs. And following its path, we took no care to rest, but climbed, he first, then I, so far. Through a round aperture I saw appear some of the beautiful things that heaven bears. Where we came forth, and once more saw the stars. A rapid bolt will rend the clouds apart, and every single white be seared by wounds. I tell you this, I want it all to hurt. As flowerlets drooped and puckered in the night turn up to the returning sun and spread their petals wide on his new warmth and light, just so my wilted spirits rose again, and such a heat of zeal surged through my veins that I was born anew. What is it then? Why do you hesitate? Why do you relish living like a coward? Why cannot you be bold and keen to start? Faith is the substance of the things we hope for, and evidence of those that are not seen. He who best discerns the worth of time is most distressed whenever time is lost. Haste denies all acts their dignity. The only answer that I give to you is doing it, he said. A just request is to be met in silence, by the act. If I thought I was replying to someone who would ever return to the world, this flame would cease its flickering. But since no one has returned from these depths alive, if what I've heard is true, I will answer you without fear of infamy. And as he, who with laboring breath has escaped from the deep to the shore, turns to the perilous waters and gazes, so many times a man's thoughts will waver, that it turns him back from honored paths, as false sight turns a beast, when he is afraid. They had their faces twisted toward their haunches and found it necessary to walk backward, because they could not see ahead of them, and since he wanted so to see ahead, he looks behind and walks a backward path. These dwell among the blackest souls, loaded down deep by sins of differing types. If you sink far enough, you'll see them all. Salvation must grow out of understanding. Total understanding can follow only from total experience, and experience must be won by the laborious discipline of shaping one's absolute attention. All being within this order, by the laws of its own nature is impelled to find its proper station round its primal cause. Thus every nature moves across the tide of the great sea of being to its own port, each with its given instinct as its guide. When any of our faculties retains a strong impression of delight or pain, the soul will wholly concentrate on that, neglecting any other power it has. And thus, when something seen or heard secures the soul in stringent grip, time moves and yet we do not notice it. Soft as the early morning breeze of May, which heralds dawn, rich with the grass and flowers, spreading in waves their breathing fragrances. I felt a breeze strike soft upon my brow. I felt a wing caress it, I am sure. I sensed the sweetness of ambrosia. Lying in a featherbed will not bring you fame, nor staying beneath the quilt, and he who uses up his life without achieving fame leaves no more vestige of himself on earth than smoke in the air or foam upon the water. Life is a vale of tears, a period of trial and suffering, an unpleasant but necessary preparation for the afterlife where alone man could expect to enjoy happiness. If you free as you are of every weight. Had stayed below, then that would be as strange as living flame on earth remaining still. And then she turned her gaze up toward the heavens. Your soul has been assailed by cowardice, which often weighs so heavily on a man, distracting him from honorable trials, as phantoms frighten beasts when shadows fall. I make no other answer than the act. The master said, the only fit reply to a fit request is silence and the fact. Rejoice, Florence, seeing you are so great that over sea and land you flap your wings, and your name is widely known in hell. I say that when she appeared, in whatever place, by the hope embodied in that marvelous greeting, for me no enemy remained. In fact, I shone with a flame of charity that made me grant pardon to whoever had offended me, and if anyone had then asked me anything, my reply would only have been, love, with an aspect full of humility. One should only be afraid of those things which have the power of doing others harm, for the rest, fear not, because they are not fearful. Put off this sloth, the master said, for shame. Sitting on feather pillows, lying reclined beneath the blanket is no way to fame. Fame, without which man's life wastes out of mind, leaving on earth no more memorial than foam in water or smoke upon the wind. You were not made to live like brute beasts, but to pursue virtue and knowledge. High justice would in no way be debased if ardent love should cancel instantly the debts these penitents must satisfy. The Commedia, it must be remembered, is a vision of the progress of man's soul toward perfection. Within her presence, I had once been used to feeling, trembling, wonder, dissolution. But that was long ago. Still, though my soul, now she was veiled, could not see her directly, by way of hidden force that she could move, I felt the mighty power of old love. True love is never lost, not even by a bishop's or a priest's curse, that we cannot regain it, so long as hope has still its bit of green. Not foliage green, but of a fuss color. Not branches smooth, but gnarled and intertangled. Not apple tress were there, but thorns with poison. And what is laughter but a flashing of the soul, that is, a light appearing externally as it is within? When you are nearer, you will understand how much your eyesight is deceived by distance. Therefore, push yourself a little harder. O human creatures, born to soar aloft, why fall ye thus before a little wind? Though every city shall he hunt her down, until he shall driven her back to hell, there from whence envy first did let her loose. That precious fruit which all men eagerly go searching for on many different boughs will give, today, peace to your hungry soul. Should it occur again, as we walk on, that we find ourselves where others of this crew fall into such petty wrangling and upbraiding, the wish to hear such baseness is degrading. Hypocrites, they wear gorgeous cloaks lined with lead, pretty outside, awful inside. Heavy cloaks force them to behave sedately, although seething within, cloak true character in false appearance. How rough that wood was, wild, and terrible, by the mere thought my terror is renewed. From one point of view it is an appeal to future ages from Florentine injustice and ingratitude, from another, it is a long and passionate plea with his native town to shake her in her stubborn cruelty. And just as he who, with exhausted breath, having escaped from sea to shore, turns back to watch the dangerous waters he has quit, so did my spirit, still a fugitive, turn back to look intently at the pass that never has let any man survive. And without fame, a man must spend his life, only to leave such traces upon earth, as smoke leaves in the air, or foam in the sea,